Go see Shazam! Fury of the Gods. We are a far better film than some of these critics, reviewers have given us credit for. And those of you who have seen the movie know this, because it's gonna blow your mind.
It's all my fault. I drove man away.
He was the only one who knew all along.
Yes, he was a hero. I just couldn't see it.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods continues the story of Billy Batson and his fellow foster family kids as they deal with having superpowers and with growing up. And boy do those grown-up superpowers now come in need as a trio of godly sisters attack the Earth with a horrible plan to do some landscaping.
Fitting place for a garden.
A plan that involves such evil acts as locking the hero city in a dome and unleashing these deadly vines that... wait a minute, I know this. I know this. And overall, everything surrounding Shazam just kinda makes you feel bad for it, because it seems to be treated like a plague. Superman apparently didn't want to be in the first movie. Wonder Woman apparently wasn't there for the second movie, so she needed a body double and filmed her portion across the globe. And The Rock wanted to have nothing to do with any of it. Oh, and the director was publicly identifying the sequel as a flop and announcing his departure during the opening weekend. Oh, and the audiences didn't show up either, which is why the movie is already out on digital. It's as if the only person actually standing in support of Fury of the Gods was Shazam himself, and even he seemed to be losing his mind.
You want to go see John Wick? Go for it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to. But John Wick's not a family movie. So if you're looking for a movie for your family or whatever, or you just don't want to get into like hardcore...
And to be fair, you can definitely cut all these people behind this movie some slack because a lot of its failure comes down to macro factors. The DCEU is fast evolving into its next iteration, which doesn't really help Fury of the Gods since clearly it won't be relevant past tomorrow. But that said, macro factors are never the only factor. If Shazam 2 was an incredible experience, then audiences would show up to experience it, cinematic universe or not. The bigger issue at play here is that it's not so incredible. The biggest issue of them all that led this movie to failure is that it's a movie.
The movie is like, it feels like a movie.
As in, it makes you say, yeah, that's a scene in a movie. I've seen it. Yeah, that's the third act of a movie. I've seen it. In other words, the film is so generic on the writing side that even though a lot of what it does is perfectly adequate or even good, it doesn't matter. The genericness is like an actual plague that attaches itself to everything that happens and sucks the life out of it. And so today, let's dive into Fury of the Gods to better understand what that means, what it actually means when a movie is just a movie. What are some central ways in which genericness poisons cinematic material, and how exactly can you combat it? The first main genericness issue here is that scenes and events either are not driven by specific enough motivations or they lack tangible context for them.
Something very familiar about all this.
To introduce what I mean, look at the opening bridge scene where Billy and his family of superheroes save civilians from a collapsing bridge. What you'll notice is that there's no motivational specificity. Why is the bridge collapsing? I don't know, it just is. Who are the people in danger? I don't know, it's random people. What is the significance of the heroes saving them? Well, I guess... I don't know. In other words, it's like the scene unfolds in a vacuum. The bridge collapses and the heroes save people because this is a superhero movie and that's what happens in superhero movies. It's a scene in a movie. You feel like you've already seen it because you have, only now you're lacking that specific motivational engine that would make it its own thing.
Don't worry, man! I'm coming! Shut up! Did I just save you while you were listening to this song?
As another example, when the other kid, Freddy, is in school, he stumbles into this new girl and becomes her friend, once again, without a present engine. There's nothing specific Freddy is currently doing at school, no specific school event he partakes in a way that crosses his path with her. It just sort of unfolds. He walks in school and randomly bumps into her and then they're best friends. You've seen it before because this is what happens in movies and because here there's no detailed, unique way for how how it happens. And even though it soon turns out that the girl is a god driven by a motive of using Freddy to get to Shazam, it doesn't really help because motivations work only if the audience is aware of them. For example, now the other gods show up to steal Freddy's powers, and one of them makes the school principal take an empty step when he shows up. And it's like, why does she need him dead? I don't know. It's not because she needs to protect her identities, because that's done with. It's not because the principal poses a threat, because he doesn't. There's no clear and present reason. Mainly it happens because she's a villain, and this is what villains do, right? It's that scene in a movie.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why?
Just trust me on this.
And this is what affects a lot of the scenes here. Things unfold without a specific enough engine. Whether it's an unprompted dinner scene with Wonder Woman that you don't even fully understand until it's nearing the end.
It was all a dream.
Or a basic villain intro MacGuffin scene where they unleash this rage virus, but for no clear reason since they then immediately kill everyone anyway.
It was all point.
Or a scene of the villains tossing hostages to die instead of using them as hostages, even though the reason they took a hostage was because they didn't want to face the heroes head on.
Throw them in the pit.
Why?
Because you just keep...
But I mean, yeah, all this is what happens in movies. Heroes get tossed into a deadly pit, which they then escape. Or if the scenes are driven by a good enough engine, then it's pure exposition. Like Billy explaining the wizard to Freddy to get his help.
Freddy's trying to get me a message. The astral projection powers. What's that? Obi-Wan Kenobiing you from the gripping...
And Billy explaining the wizard's warning to the others to figure out what to do.
Daughters of Atlas are the offspring of the Titan Atlas, which is obvious.
And the heroes learning about the villains from a magical book.
A council of human wizards got together and they stole the staff from Atlas and they used that to take his powers.
It's specific, yes, but it's just words. It doesn't have the impact of being established in practice with the villains actually doing something. Like, yeah, it's another set of villains with godly CGI powers. I get it, I've seen it. And even when the engines are finally properly running, then what's missing is the fueling context. Like, apparently the villains do bad things because they were betrayed and locked up.
Imagine it is not money, but the lifeblood of your father.
The magic of the entire realm that was stolen. And now this magic courses through you?
Which is specific but not understandable enough because there's no tangible visual proof of it. Why are they so mad? Why do they need powers when they already have powers? Why are they doing this? I don't know. It's mostly just verbal fairy dust that leads us to another CGI spectacle finale we've all seen many times.
Our sole purpose is to avenge our father.
That would destroy their world.
Just as they destroyed ours.
Let's see how you like being sealed off in a dying world.
I have no knowledge of any of this. This is so bizarre.
And to give context for what I'm getting at, look at The Dark Knight. In the Joker's first bank heist scene, there are already specifics about it, that they're hitting a mob bank.
Like 5,000 volts. What kind of bank does that?
A mob bank.
That the Joker's getting rid of his own people.
What happened to the rest of the guys?
It's not just another movie bank heist, it's this specific thing, right? And with every new Joker scene, not only is his engine of intention always present and ever evolving, the context fueling it is also on screen. Oh, he hit the mob's bank to get their attention. Oh, he's using the pillars of Gotham to take it all down to prove that he's not crazy or alone, that deep down everyone is like him. And oh, that motivation adds up since it's been in play from the start.
Freak.
And a freak's like you would... What a freak.
I guess the Joker's as crazy as they say.
You're alone. You'll be in a bed of jail forever. You're crazy.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
That's why the Joker in The Dark Knight is special instead of just a crazy evil villain doing crazy evil villain things, because that's what they do. His motivational specificity is what gives him and his scenes punch. The point is that for a scene to function in a non-general manner, you need two things. A motivational engine compelling characters to make the scene happen in a certain way, as well as at least hints of a properly established context for that motivation so the audience can understand it and care. Or to put it in a more general way, think of it like people in your school or workplace. If I tell you that someone you know is taking online classes to learn something else, that could be literally anyone, right? But if I also say that, oh, this is what they're learning and this is the context for why, suddenly you begin to see through the noise of people until you make out the face. Oh yeah, it's Mike. He's been taking photography classes to learn to use his camera because he wants to do that full time instead of his current job which he feels imprisoned by. Or that it's Jim. He's been learning how to use editing software because he wants a job as a content editor which his mom never allowed. Or that it's Phil. He wants to write movies to become popular and to impress girls. So he learned the basics of screenwriting with this class hosted by a pro writer, and now he's on to more advanced levels and he's even got his own YouTube movie channel. Those two factors create the specificity. Oh, and by the way, that last person is me and you just watched an ad.
Got him! Got him!
The place that offers online classes in all these areas and in many more is Skillshare, a subscription-based online learning platform. So if there is a skill you want to learn for a hobby or for a new career, this is the best place to do it. Skillshare is sponsoring a free 1-month trial of all their classes for the first 1,000 Filmento viewers who click the link below, and there's also a 40% April discount off your first year available only now this April, so check it out. The second main genericness issue here is that elements used within scenes are so shallow that it's like they're the first version of the idea in many different areas.
Oh yeah, that's good.
This can, for example, mean comedy, like when in the beginning the villains are hyping up their upcoming opponent and then the movie cuts to the opposite.
The strongest, most keenly intelligent champions this realm has ever witnessed.
I'm an idiot.
While there's nothing wrong with the joke, the issue is that it's the most bare-bones obvious version of it. The villain unpromptedly hypes up the hero and then the hero unpromptedly says otherwise. It's the default version of the joke and you see it coming a mile away because you've seen this template and others like it 1,000 times.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
Yes.
I knew it.
And there's a lot of that here. The movie relies on comedic templates without making more out of them within its own context. Oh, the villain rides a flying beast, so therefore it's funny to say,
Hey, Khaleesi!
oh, the heroes are a family, so therefore it's funny to say,
I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies. It's all about family.
oh, Marvel exists, so therefore it's funny to say,
Code Society? That's stupid. The Avengers Society. I like that for some reason.
These jokes are version 1.0. They could and probably have appeared in this very same form in other movies. There's nothing more done with them. You expect this superficial Fast and Furious reference from a YouTube comment section, not from the actual writer of Fast and Furious who gets paid millions to write. Even though Marvel isn't always the best with this either,
They're behind me, aren't they?
they have proven to at least understand the difference between writing a joke and using a joke as is.
I should say no Sherlock.
Oh my god.
Everybody really wants that joke. Why didn't you reference it?
It's a meta joke that requires you to be a fan of other movies.
It's also a very obvious joke.
Same with the story and its twists and turns, like with the god getting close to Freddy to get to Shazam. First of all, it doesn't seem very natural in the moment. It's pretty weird to see a popular looking girl just magically get all head over heels over someone she just met. And then on top of that, to realize that she's actually a 6,000-year-old god who somehow developed real feelings for a human child after a couple scenes.
I didn't know. I never meant for you to get hurt.
And second of all, the twist itself is pretty damn shallow. Oh, Freddy tells Billy that she has a new girlfriend named Anne, and then Billy realizes that there's a third god named
Anne. Thea.
Like, come on, did an 8-year-old write this? Why would she use her own name like that? And it comes off as it was written by someone who just saw their first Shyamalan movie and went with the first idea it inspired, which doesn't really impress audiences who have seen more than 4 movies in total. Like, sure, maybe it was cool when the Joker got himself imprisoned to leverage the cops and Batman to fulfill his plan, but having seen that template used in this way so many times now, it doesn't really seem so cool anymore.
Thought we brought her in too easily. She wanted to get caught.
Same with areas like exposition. There is a lot of info here to explain, so how is that done? Do we get more specifically entertaining ways of doing it, like with a hero messed up in the head walking through events in time to get emotional context?
You wanna come see?
We just sit in a room talking and there's this funny magic pen. That's enough for the audience to not be bored.
Thanks, Steve.
Until the rebellion, when you...
Actually, no, you need to do way more. Same with the entire third act. The stakes and obstacles come down to the city being trapped in this bubble and taken over by vines, which already ruined Justice League, so I don't really get the choice to repeat it. The emotional release comes down to Billy calling his foster mother Mom for the first time.
I love you, Mom.
Even though he's interacted with her maybe twice before in the whole movie.
We don't care.
The solutions to challenges come down to the heroes mentioning that unicorns can defeat other monsters and that they like nectar, and then in the next scene the heroes find a unicorn and break it, with something that seems less like writing and more like product placement with zero organicity or effort.
We're gonna need more Skittles.
It's the closest to ambrosia we have.
Sorry guys, I need to pause the video for a second to remind you about Filminter's new book summarizing all the movie lessons from his videos, and also about Skillshare. It's this thing and you want it because, it's basically like Nectar of the Gods.
And I mean, what happened? Did the writers run out of time? Were they forced to use the first idea someone spouted out? Yeah, just have a character say that unicorns exist and then they find them and fight the monsters with them. That'll do it. I guess I'm beating a dead horse by now, so the point is that whatever ideas and elements you choose for your scenes, the choice can't be the first version. You have to organically delve deeper into those ideas and elements in a special context that you possess. The moment of the pen writing everything the heroes say can be funny.
Violence is not the answer. Oh, good first sentence. Thanks, Darla.
But it doesn't really survive. Why wouldn't the heroes notice it since they already know that the pen writes too much? There is a good idea here, but it's not yet ready.
Anyone else want a Gatorade?
What is this Gatorade? Is it a weapon?
As contrast, one of the best moments in the first movie is when the villain is talking too much and then it turns out that...
Think a pack of children can... Wait, what?
This is a funny, familiar idea, but most importantly, the execution is very distinct and fresh and organic. That's why it stands out. That's what you want to look for with everything, instead of being satisfied with the first template version you come up with. Because what you come up with will usually initially be a recycled version of that which inspired you. So here's the idea, but what is the specific your movie version of it? The third main genericness issue here is that the defining, unique nature of the property isn't actively utilized and thus is lost. The whole core gist with Shazam is that a kid or kids get this ability to turn into adult-looking superheroes. That was the thing that sold the first movie. The heroes were testing out their powers and buying drinks at the store and wrestling with school and with the foster care system, and overall they were getting into kid shenanigans. Whereas here, a lot of that defining gist is gone. It doesn't really matter that the superheroes are actually young. School isn't relevant. We're barely ever at school, and even then only when the narrative otherwise demands it. School work isn't relevant. There is some talk about school papers in college, but all that is fairy dust. It's not a real thing beyond a couple verbal mentions.
I have to work.
Being an orphan in the foster care system isn't relevant. It's pretty much taken for granted here without any actual obstacles or challenges outside of one character once telling Billy that he's turning 18 and that it's a problem.
And the state no longer sends checks. Victor and Rosa can barely pay rent.
The secret identity topic isn't relevant. We don't really have to hide or struggle with the fact that we turn into stranger adult superheroes. That information is treated in a pretty lax way. I mean, one of the kids doesn't even change appearance when she becomes a hero. So then what's the point, and how does it make sense that nobody watching the news realizes?
That's Mary. What?
It's as if the heroes being young has become an afterthought, which kinda ruins the core of this property and turns it into another comic book blockbuster. And to be clear, this is a sequel, so evolution is not only wise but also mandatory. Things have to be different from last time, so it's not the same. It's just that what the sequel wants to do in a lot of ways goes against what the property is. The main theme here is about growing up and about its negative effects. Billy desperately tries to hold on to his new family to not lose it like his own family. That's a very fitting message to explore. But the issue is that it's weirdly twisted. It doesn't really gel with the fundamentals of Shazam. If Billy's becoming an adult here, it's a bit strange to then see the superhero version of him act like he's 12 years old. If Billy is the one becoming an adult here,
At some point, Billy, like, everyone on Earth, we have to get a job, or...
It's a bit strange to then see the movie imply that the other kids are suddenly becoming too busy for him, even though they're still kids, and by the story's own logic, Billy should be the one becoming too busy. Again, if the movie actually dedicated itself to this growing up part, fine. But if you just say out loud that, yeah, the kids now have all this stuff to do, and that, yeah, Billy has to get a job or the foster family loses their home, without actually making any of it reality, no. It's like taking a yellow wall and painting it blue. It's so far away that it doesn't fit the house anymore. It's like a Spider-Man movie not involving Peter Parker's personal life. It would be a new thing, but also so far away from what Spider-Man is that the core would be lost.
For example, if you rearranged the plot so that Freddy getting a girlfriend is the thing that pulls him away from Billy, that could work. That could be another version of Billy dealing with his mom abandoning him in the first movie, and it would be a real thing instead of whatever verbal fairy dust.
Once more, I cannot stress enough how important evolution is. That's how you justify your sequel's existence. But what I'm getting at is that whatever your movie is at its core, the evolved version has to remain and keep utilizing. You can't evolve Pikachu into that water Pokemon. It wouldn't be Pikachu anymore. If you have a movie about young people superheroes and you don't actually delve into young people topics like school and college and getting your first job while trying to have time to be a superhero, the essence will be lost. You're not Shazam doing Shazam things anymore so much as you're a parody version of Superman, which no amount of occasional childish comedy can remedy. Either this movie should be about kids, or it should be about a kid growing up and becoming too busy to be with the other kids because he believes he has to take on adult responsibilities, until at the end he learns that family is beyond age or something. What you cannot do is take a square shape and verbally turn it into the number 7. You'll just lose what you had. That's how your movie becomes generic. That's how your movie becomes just another movie that happens to carry the name Shazam.
Hello, Fomento. What's up, my brother? I just wanted to call and say thank you for agreeing to make that negative video on Shazam 2. The money is now on your bank account. Peace out, brother.